Shut up and sit down.
What's the story, internet? Wonderful day so far.
Shut up and sit down.
Still within 2 points. So Dortmund beat Mönchengladbach. Holstein Kiel. Oh no, that's March. Sorry. Dortmund beat Holstein Kiel 5-0. So it's the important one. And then Leipzig beat Werder Bremen 2-1. So the final on May the 13th is set up to be Red Bull Leipzig versus Dortmund. So a bit of a thriller in the German Cup there. Moving over to Ligue 1. I don't think there was anything too much changed because PSG won and Lille won. So top of the table is still the same. Lille is 1 point ahead on 76, PSG is on 75, and then Monaco is on 71. And then moving over to the Serie A, it has been confirmed Inter Milan have won the Scudetto, stopping Juventus from getting a 10th title. They beat Crotone 2-0, Milan beat Benevento 2-0, Juventus beat Udinese 2-1, Atalanta drew 1-1. So, a good result for Inter Milan, obviously, winning the Scudetto the first time in a very, very long time. And as I mentioned, breaking that rut of Juventus 9 times in a row. So, fair play to Inter Milan there. So moving over to the Premier League, Southampton won, Leicester City won. A hammer blow to Leicester City's chances. They're still only 4 points behind Manchester United, but they're only 2 points ahead of Chelsea and only 5 points ahead of West Ham. So a little bit shaky. They could have done with a win there. Good result for Southampton. Don't want to say they got lucky, but they were down to 10 men. They did take the lead thanks to a penalty through James Ward-Prowse, and Johnny Evans equalised in the 68th minute. Leicester were kind of all over them, 71 to 29% possession, 23 shots to 5, 9 on target to 3. But, as I always say, possession does not win you matches. So, Manchester City 2, Crystal Palace 0. Manchester City are in pole position to win the Premier League, unfortunately, and this just solidified that, especially for reasons that we'll get into. Brighton 2, Leeds 0. Shock result for Leeds there. Great result for Brighton though. Pascal Gross with the penalty and then Danny Welbeck. Relatively even match, 41 to 59% possession, 17 to 11 shots and 5 to 2 on target for Brighton. It means they move up to 14th. They are level on points with Southampton, although Southampton do have a game in hand. Pretty much clear of the relegation zone now. I don't think there's any danger for Brighton. So Chelsea beat Fulham 2-0. Another reason why Brighton are in the clear. Fulham losing, not a good result for them. Kai Havertz with 2 goals for Chelsea. Fulham were not out of the game by any means. They had 52% possession, 10 shots, but only 3 on target. So that accuracy and efficiency was the thing that really hurt them there. Everton won, Aston Villa 2. Aston Villa with a well-deserved win. They did go ahead thanks to Ollie Watkins in the 13th minute, and then Dominic Calvert-Lewin equalised, and Anwar El Ghazi in the 80th minute. Knocks Everton's opportunity to get into Europe. It's not over yet. They're only 6 points behind West Ham. They do have a game in hand, but it could have done with a win if they were hoping to get into Europe. Newcastle 0, Arsenal 2. Mohamed El Neni in the 6th minute, and then Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang scoring in the 66th minute. Arsenal were all over Newcastle, and it didn't help that Fabian Schär got sent off in the 90th minute. 62 to 38% possession, 19 shots to 5 on target to 1. Arsenal are within sniffing distance of Europe, but I don't think it's going to happen unless they win the Europa League. So, Tottenham 4, Sheffield United 0. Gareth Bale getting his first hat-trick since 2011 or 2012, that sort of time. And then Heung-min Son getting the 4th goal. Sheffield United just didn't look in it, and to be honest, you can't really blame them. They have nothing to play for. Might as well just throw the academy lads in there, but looking at their track record, it's probably not going to happen. West Brom 1, Wolves 1. Not a good result for Big Sam's men. They did well to fight back and get the equaliser, but they could have done with the 3 points to put the pressure on Fulham and put the pressure on Newcastle, Burnley, Southampton, but looks like they might be inevitably getting relegated, unfortunately. And then Burnley 1, West Ham 2. Burnley did take the lead in the 19th minute, but then Michail Antonio straight away, and then he scored again in the 29th minute. West Ham deserved it, 56% possession to 44, 22 shots to 8, 4 shots on target to 3. So again, not very efficient from West Ham, but the 2 that were on target made the difference. But Burnley's relatively safe. They're 9 points ahead of Fulham and 10 points ahead of West Brom, so it would take a proper falling apart to cause any problems there. So the big thing that I wanted to talk about, and as I'm sure you'll have noticed, there is a match missing here. That was only 9 matches, and that is Manchester United versus Liverpool. So on Saturday, fans started gathering outside of Old Trafford and started protesting the Glazers. They did eventually get inside the stadium, and from there it caused the match to get postponed. Now, one thing I'm going to say up front, I do not condone any violence with the protesters. I do not condone the destruction of property with the protesters. However, their message and the majority of people who were peacefully protesting, I completely agree with. Now, one thing I didn't agree with, I saw an article in The Independent where they were saying that this is 16 years too late. Have you not been paying attention, Independent? This has been going on since 2005. This isn't the first protest. There was the whole LUHG, Love United, Hate Glazers movement, the golden green, going back to the Newton Heath colours, not wearing red at matches. You saw the golden green scarves. Have you not been paying attention? Yes, it died down a little bit, but that's because Alex Ferguson left and it sort of took the wind out of the fan sails. But this whole European Super League has brought that back and brought it to the forefront, and it's made people pay attention. And I think that not only the Glazers should be paying attention, but Stan Kroenke, Fenway Sports Group, all the other ones, Florentino Perez, all the other ones that were involved in the European Super League and that have been taking advantage of the sport that we love. And one thing that I am disappointed about was there were 4 Manchester United players. It seemed like it was Bruno Fernandes, Harry Maguire, Scott McTominay, and I'm relatively sure it was Marcus Rashford, but it might have been Luke Shaw. It was either one of the 2. Wanted to go out and speak to the fans and understand and make them understand that the match should still go ahead, but they understand that the players are on their side, and they weren't allowed to do that. And I think that would have placated the fans enough to the point where the protests would have made it would have left a message, but there wouldn't have been that violence. And I'm not saying that's the only thing. I think that that inevitably there was always going to be that fringe faction that was going to be violent. And I think the NBCSN commentator over here, Arlo White, who was stuck in the stadium, said it best. He said, you've got to think that these people have been stuck inside for a year, have been able to watch a football match in person, haven't been allowed in a stadium, and you get some alcohol involved, and not to excuse the actions of those few people, but it was almost inevitable when something like this was bound to happen. So another thing I wanted to mention was an article that I read in the Manchester Evening News about John Champion. So John Champion is a well-respected commentator for ITV, and he has been mostly seen in the World Cup fixtures, especially over here in America. He also works for ESPN, and he was in the middle of a rant along with Taylor Twellman, and he got cut off. They went to a commercial break to sort of silence him. So I just want to read what he did get out, because I actually agree with what he was saying. But I just think it's disgusting that ESPN would go through that trouble of cutting someone off like that. So I'm going to read this word for word from Manchester Evening News. So Twellman was giving his view on the protest and postponement, saying, "Here in the United States, everything we do in sports is franchised." Then he was interrupted by Champion. So this is John Champion. "Don't mention that word. I hate that word, because that has no place in our lexicon when we talk about European sports clubs. They're clubs with beating hearts, not franchises. You have Manchester United, one of the Super League clubs, owned by the Glazer family, who are widely despised as absentee owners. And yet this is the thing which dominates the lives of so many of its followers. That's why," and at that point, that's when he was cut off, which he didn't even get the bulk of what he was trying to say out, but you can see the passion that he had for it, and you can see that he is on the same page as those fans. This isn't some toy for the super rich to play around with. This is a cornerstone of the community, and you've got thousands upon millions of fans that look to this club for support and for companionship. You see another Manchester United fan or another Liverpool fan on the streets, and you feel that togetherness. You have this feeling of support through the football team. And some people work all week, and they get up on a Saturday or a Sunday, and they go to the stadium and they feel a part of something bigger than themselves. And it's very hard to explain to someone who hasn't experienced that and who isn't part of that. But it's not something that a billionaire can come in and just fritter away just for their own gain. So I just want to read another thing. I just need to pull up the picture. Where was it? It was a tweet that I found that I thought was very appropriate. Here we go. So it was from Aidan Walsh MUFC, and it's explaining for those who don't understand. The Glazers bought the club with a loan. They then transferred the debt of the loan to the club. They've put £0 of their own money into the club. All the transfers have come from club revenue. They have taken £2 billion out of the club. So they effectively bought it for nothing. They got a loan. They used the club to pay back the loan, straddled the club with debt when it had been debt-free before 2005, took $2 billion out, so putting it even further into debt, and put nothing in for themselves. And then the transfers, which are the players that come in that are supposed to boost the club, win trophies, get even more money for these greedy little devils, and didn't put anything back in. So it's very difficult for me to sympathise with these vultures when they do things like this. Another message I wanted to read, and I'm going to put both of these in the intro, or maybe the outro of this video. This was a sign on Hotel Football. So if you don't know where Old Trafford stands, so there's Old Trafford, and just across the river there's Hotel Football, which is a hotel owned by Gary Neville. Part owned, I don't think he's full owner. And this message was on the side of the hotel just before the protests. We have to come together now. We have got to stop this. It is absolutely critical that we do. And I could not agree more. And I think that it's good to see the likes of Gary Neville and Roy Keane, Paul Scholes and Eric Cantona speak out against these vultures, as I keep calling them, because that's all they're here to do, is suck the life force out of the club, make money. And they don't care if it fritters away. As long as they make the money, they're not that arsed. They'll just take the money out, leave it dry like a Capri Sun that you've sucked all the liquid out, and then be done with it. Their best bet right now would be to sell it. It's going to be hard to find a buyer because it's in so much debt. I know that there's talks of Sir Jim Ratcliffe, I think that's his name, local Manchester businessman and Manchester United fan, buying it. There's obviously the talks of Conor McGregor. There's talks of players banding together and buying it, but I don't know if that would work with the conflict of interest because of Salford City. But something has to be done. These people are not fit to run a football club, as was seen by Ed Woodward. Ed Woodward was there to make money. He wasn't there to bring in the best players. He wasn't there to bring in the transfers. He wasn't there as a football man. David Gill, the previous chairman, he was there to make money, but he was also a football man. He understood the football side of things. He understood that you could bring in a transfer like Cristiano Ronaldo and still make money. He understood that you could bring in Wayne Rooney and still make money. But the Glazers don't seem to understand that. Alexis Sanchez only came in so that he could boost the sales of the number 7 shirt. Not every player, like Bruno Fernandes, has come in and had a phenomenal impact. But that's more luck of the draw than it is track record. So I think it's time for these owners to get out. I think that someone brought up the point that the fans protesting like this is putting a dent in the 50+1 rule that's going to have to go to Parliament because they reached the 100,000 signatures mark on the petition. I don't think so. I think it just shows how passionate the fans are. And if that's the case, that puts a dent in it, then that just shows how far removed Parliament is. And the fact that the Football Association want to dock points from Manchester United because of these protests shows how far removed they are. I thought it was meant to be free speech. Yes, the violence was not free speech. It was an expression, that's for sure. But punish the ones that deserve to be punished. It's like if you're in a classroom and one person keeps making a noise and the teacher punishes the whole classroom. It doesn't stop the behaviour. In fact, it makes the rest of the class bitter. And that's what's going to happen. You think the fans were pissed before? They're going to be even more pissed when they're put into a corner. This would have been stopped if fans were allowed in the stadium because their voices would have been heard a lot sooner. And obviously, I'm not saying to go against COVID protocols. I'm not saying that any of that. But I think once the fans are allowed back in the stadiums, Football Association, the Glazers, will be very surprised to see the backlash. It's coming because the fans aren't happy, and understandably so. So that's everything from me for this week. Again, a little bit more of a serious video because I had to talk about the protests and had to talk about the state of affairs in football. But I will be back with you for a preview for the midweek international matches. Got some Champions League, got some Europa League, semi-final, second legs. I'll be back with you either later on today or in the morning. But in the meantime, hope you're all staying safe, keeping out of trouble. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you all have a wonderful day. Remember, Glazers out. Love United, hate the Glazers. And until later,